If you've seen significant drops in performance with your Facebook and Instagram advertising campaigns over the last few weeks, this is more than likely due to the iOS 14.5 update that Apple launched in late April. In this week's video, we're going to be talking about the changes in performance that we've seen with our own e-commerce clients and what we're doing to adapt and continue to find success with our Facebook and Instagram advertising campaigns. Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jack. I'm the founder here at Scenarius. We're a paid advertising agency based here in London that helps e-commerce brands set up effective campaigns on Facebook and Instagram. And on April 26th of this year, Apple finally released the iOS 14 update, which prompted users whether or not they want to opt into tracking by Facebook and Instagram. If you want to know a little bit more about the update and kind of what Facebook has done ahead of the update to kind of prepare for it, I'll leave another video that we've created about the more of the details about the update that you can go and check out, and how kind of the ad account has changed. As of the most recent data that I looked at, the iPhone users now have an 86% adoption rate of the update, and 96% of people are opting out of tracking. As you can imagine, this has created huge problems for Facebook and us as advertisers and brands that really rely on Facebook and Instagram to find and acquire customers on the platform, because now the people who have opted out of tracking, essentially we are losing those data points and we're not being able to track those numbers in the ad account. So I've been looking at a lot of the Facebook forums that I follow, and I'm seeing that a lot of people are experiencing what we've experienced, especially over the last few weeks or so. We really saw a significant decrease in the number of sales that are being attributed to the ads, and a lot of other people are kind of seeing that as well. So I want to jump into a few of the things that we're seeing more specifically with our accounts, and then we're going to talk about what we've done to mitigate that, and again continue to find success with the campaigns. So the first thing that we're seeing in the account is obviously a drop in sales. As you can imagine, 96% of people who have the iOS 14 update are opting out of tracking. So Facebook for years have been tracking people using their own algorithm, the way they've been able to collect data and track people, and what they do on other websites is how kind of the Facebook's algorithm became so powerful, and how it's able to kind of deliver the ads to the right people. And that's why kind of it's the most kind of successful way e-commerce brands can acquire new customers. With this loss of data, obviously we are seeing that in the account. It's really thrown off the algorithm from what we can tell for the time being. And so those loss in data points are just resulting in a drop in sales of what we're seeing in the ad accounts. Another thing that we're seeing across multiple accounts that we're working on is the reduction in performance, specifically with lookalike audiences. As I'm sure you're very well aware, lookalike audiences are essentially created by giving Facebook a list of people, either tracked on your website or a list that you've compiled from your email list, for example. And then what Facebook does is analyzes those people, matches them to Facebook and Instagram accounts on the platform, and then tracks where those users, what websites they visit. It takes all of that data and finds similar people on the platform to deliver your ads to. So it's a very, very powerful tool, and a lot of brands rely on it for actually finding and acquiring new customers. We have a few accounts that kind of relied on lookalike audiences and lookalikes have been performing really, really well for them for, I would say, a solid 6 to 9 months, where we've been acquiring customers with this one lookalike audience, and we're seeing like 50% drop in sales with ads that we know we're winning, that were performing really well in the past. So that's going to be a big hit. This is quite a surprise to me, because I kind of assumed that it will take a while before the algorithm will really start to have problems with the tracking, as the data that Facebook has stockpiled in the past should still allow them to kind of come up with pretty good lookalike audiences. But yeah, we are seeing that as quite a bit of a hit. The next thing is also quite obvious. The retargeting audiences that we are seeing on Facebook and Instagram are a lot smaller. Obviously, with the loss of data points, the actual audience that Facebook is able to reach is smaller. And that's going to be something that you really want to take into consideration when you're looking to run retargeting campaigns. So I'd actually love to hear from the media buyers as well as e-commerce brand owners that follow this channel. What changes have you been seeing in the account, and kind of what are you doing to mitigate that? So do comment down below what you've seen from the account and kind of what changes, and if you've seen that consistently across all of the accounts that you're working on. So now I want to jump into what we're doing in the ad account to kind of mitigate the effects of iOS 14 and ensure the best chances of success for our campaigns moving forward. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that Apple is actually allowing Facebook to track the highest priority event through a one-day attribution window, even if that user actually opted out of tracking. So what this essentially means is there are different events that you're tracking within Facebook's Pixel or a server integration, which is your kind of initiate checkout, add to cart, purchase, and Apple is allowing Facebook to track that highest priority event, which in most cases is going to be the purchase through a one-day attribution window. So that's kind of very, very important. If you want to learn a little bit more about how you set what event is the highest priority event for your brand, I highly suggest you again check out the video we created about the iOS 14 update, where I believe we went through the aggregate event management setup and how to set the purchase is the highest priority event, because kind of that's the one that you want to really make sure you're getting as much data as possible on that. What that also tells us is that if you are a brand that perhaps sells an item that people can buy quite quickly, so they're able to see the ad and they can make a purchasing decision then and there, then optimizing for a one-day attribution window is something that you can consider. With the brands we work with, the average order value is quite high, so people actually take multiple touch points to actually go ahead and purchase, so it's unlikely that they'll purchase within that first viewing window. And so that's not something we've done, but that's something that you can definitely consider, especially if you're selling a product with a lower average order value. The second thing that we're doing across all of our client accounts, and I highly suggest you do this, is setting up server-side tracking. And I believe I've gone through this in the previous video that we've created, but just to kind of touch on it very briefly, what Facebook has set up within Shopify, and I'm not entirely sure what the setup is for other kind of e-commerce platforms, but for Shopify specifically, Facebook is actually able to send events through the server directly from Shopify. So Shopify is able to share the data it gains on the consumer directly with Facebook, and Facebook is able to match that data with users on the platform. The way you set this up is you simply need to go through your Shopify backend and you go to your Facebook sales channel and you want to enable data sharing and you want to set that to maximum. What that's going to do is, again, send the maximum amount of data that Shopify has on your consumers back to Facebook to help you with the targeting and the ads and gaining as much data as possible on your consumer. So the third thing that we are actually doing with all of our accounts, especially with the accounts that we've been spending very consistently with, and we have a backlog of data on the kind of sales that we're getting, is looking at the marketing efficiency ratio. Again, we saw a loss of 50% in the data that's being reported in the Facebook's Ads Manager in terms of sales, but we wanted to make sure that are we seeing those actual numbers in the Shopify account. And what we've done is calculated the marketing efficiency ratio for the previous months and then compared it with the month, this month, where we've seen kind of the biggest hit as a result of the update, and seen if there's too much of a discrepancy there. So what you do to get the marketing efficiency ratio is you divide your ad spend over your Shopify revenue overall, and then you multiply that by 100 to get a percentage, and that's going to give you a very holistic understanding of how efficient your advertising, your marketing efforts are. And then you want to see if they've changed over the last month or so since the iOS update has been in play, to make sure that even if you're seeing lost data in the ad account, the actual numbers and the sales that you're getting from the ads are still performing at similar levels. And for our account specifically, that has been the case. We've looked at previous data, calculated the numbers, and although again we're seeing lost data in the ad account, the actual Shopify numbers are very similar. So that's actually quite good news. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about here is more of a tactical way you can start thinking about how you can create audiences on Facebook and Instagram. As you very well know, what the iOS 14 has done is it's prevented Facebook to track many users on website and other third-party apps, but what you still have is on-app tracking. And what I mean by this is when people take actions on Facebook and Instagram, so they like your post, they engage with it, you can actually still retarget those people just as you did before. There's really no change there because that data is native to Facebook and Instagram, and Facebook essentially owns that data. So what we've been doing especially with retargeting campaigns where we've seen a lot of lost data, is using in-platform events like video viewers, post engagers to create more retargeting audiences. And that way we're able to get a larger pool of data and a larger audience that we can retarget with our campaigns. So for example, if you were running a retargeting campaigns for your website visitors in the last 30 days, what I would suggest you would try, if this, of course, if the performance has dipped on that, is try to include the people who have actually liked or engaged with any of your social media posts or your ads in the last 30 days as well, and add that audience on top of it. And that's going to give you a larger pool of people to kind of retarget, and it's going to include all of the people who've opted out of tracking, because it's likely that some of those people have actually engaged with your posts as well. The fifth thing is kind of related to the previous one. It is to consolidate your retargeting campaigns. Again, overall the audiences are going to be smaller, so what you want to try to do is consolidate them. So instead of kind of segmenting website visitors in add to carts and view contents, adding them all up in one ad set is probably going to be the best option for you, just to kind of increase the size of the audience, especially if you've seen a dip in performance with retargeting campaigns. The sixth and final thing that we're kind of doing to mitigate the effects of iOS 14 is looking at third-party apps and analytic tools that's going to allow us to continue to track the data and allow us to make data-driven decisions in the ad account. Things like Google Analytics, Wicked Reports is another one, perhaps a more expensive option, but something I would highly recommend if you are an up-and-coming e-commerce brand is to at least get set up on Google Analytics and get the Google tags set up. What that way is you're going to be able to kind of double check the data that you're getting from Facebook in the Google Analytics dashboard, and that's kind of give you a little bit more confidence with the data that you're getting, and you're able to kind of compare those two sources. So the bottom line of everything that we've talked about is, at least for the moment, we're no longer going to be getting the clear-cut data that we did before, where we're really able to say I've spent like $1 and I've gotten $2.5 back exactly from this ad, from this campaign. It's unlikely that this data is going to come back with the same accuracy, at least for the time being. I mean, if you really think about it, this is quite a big problem for Facebook, so I doubt they will leave it in its current state for a very long time. They'll definitely come up with more solutions as time goes by. But another side of that is the idea that we need to be adaptable, and we need to look at marketing efforts a little bit more holistically. I think over the last 5 years or so, as marketers, we've become very, very kind of spoiled with the data that we have, with the decisions we're able to make, with the split tests and kind of the minuscule kind of things we can look at. But the truth of the matter is, for years and years before things like Facebook and Instagram, people have been advertising without really knowing the exact return, but trusting in the process and trusting in the holistic approach of advertising your products, selling something, in the principles of advertising. So even if you're seeing a drop in numbers in the accounts, just be sure that your brand is being seen, and that people are going to end up buying if you're advertising in the right way. It's also important for brands not to panic. I do know a lot of agency owners have panicked over the last few weeks, and if I'm being honest, when we saw the drop in our accounts, it was kind of a moment of kind of concern there, because obviously a lot of brands rely on Facebook and Instagram as their main kind of customer acquisition channel, and seeing that drop by a significant margin can be quite concerning. But again, this is a chance for us to look at marketing a little bit more holistically, looking at our efforts, looking at creative, looking at kind of the overall brand messaging, and making sure that we stick through the next few weeks while we see Facebook and Instagram, what their response is going to be to the update. Again, I'm very, very confident that they will kind of come up with other solutions that's going to allow them to kind of continue to deliver ads to the right people, like they've done with the server-side tracking. And I have been seeing slightly better performance in the accounts from that initial drop, and that's been reported as well from a few of my colleagues. So I wanted to leave you on that note. Definitely do not panic. Hopefully the tips that I gave you today on what you can do in the account can immediately give you a little bit of relief, as well as different ways where you can start controlling the data that you're seeing, at least kind of regain some control over the accounts that you have. So if you did find the video valuable, be sure to like and comment again what you're seeing in the accounts, what you've done to kind of mitigate the effects of the update. And hopefully we'll see you guys in the next one, where we'll be talking a little bit more about advertising, getting back into kind of the regular similar programming. So hope you enjoyed the video. Enjoy your weekend, and then we'll see you guys in the next